Okay, welcome back. And we just got done talking about how you can generate innovative and sustainable design solutions by emulating nature's strategies for performing functions. So when we say strategies, what do we actually mean by that? Like, what strategies does nature use to get things done? Well, one is materials. This is an example in the background of a seashell. And have you ever thought about how strong seashells are, given that they're made from such brittle materials? And one of the secrets is this layer upon layer upon layer, and there's many strategies actually embedded in here, but the material itself is made of these layers so that when it's hit with something, instead of a crack going all the way through, it has to go back and forth through and dissipate through all these layers. So you can use materials alone, like we said with the termite mound, to accomplish a function. One example is Soul Rebels and their handcrafted shoes that you can look it up and find out more about the organization. But the key here is the materials they use to make these shoes are all recycled and locally available. So they're more sustainable simply because they use local, recycled, and readily available materials. Another strategy or whole set of strategies that nature uses is shape. So instead of like adding, we talked about, heat, beat, and treat, and making waves, instead of adding a lot of energy in order to make things happen, or chemicals, just by the shape alone, you can perform functions. And we see this spiral shape all over nature because spirals perform all kinds of different functions for nature. One example, it is the optimal fluid flow shape. So you see spirals in whirlpools, and you see it in the atmosphere. That's because the way fluids are structured, it follows a specific path of least resistance, and there's a very specific spiral geometry to it. And one group called PAC Scientific has captured that exact geometry and made fluid moving devices that use up to I think it's 75% less energy simply by using this specific shape instead of the usual shape that you see in fans. Another set of strategies that nature uses to accomplish things are processes. So that's like a flow from one thing to another to get things done. And of course, these processes look like this in nature, like in a wetland like this. There's all kinds of different processes going on. But when we see it, it's quiet and it's beautiful and it's cleaning as opposed to making things dirtier. And so one example of a process to accomplish something is this group called Husk, and they take waste agricultural materials. In this case, it's, I think, rice husks, or the outside of rice. So it's waste material from agricultural processing, and it sets up a process to make that into a form of energy that then they can feed into the energy system. So it's using a process in order to accomplish its design goals. Another key thing in nature, and we'll talk about this, or you'll hear about it later, is everything is interconnected and interdependent. So instead of doing everything yourself, in nature, organisms rely on each other and the system to get things done. And this one example, and some of you may have heard of this, is EcoStore Sustainable Lifestyle, and you can read about it on your own. But the whole point is that it created an organization that's based on relationships in order to empower individuals and come up with sustainable solutions and sustainable lifestyle. But the whole thing is based on relationships. And I think this is something that most of you intuit. It would be really neat to learn more about how nature forms relationships so that you can leverage those strategies in your work. And at the highest level, and also the broadest level, nature uses systems. And again, instead of trying to do everything yourself, if you can leverage the system to get things done or pull from the system to have your functions performed, then you use a whole lot more energy and resources, and you form these wonderful relationships and inner relationships with your system, your community, and with nature. One example of this is Habona, and I think some of you, again, you can look that up. And this is an example of, well, it's all the things, relationships and materials and processes, but they're collecting waste material, and they're employing people to collect waste material and turn it into different products like fertilizers, bioenergy, and I forget the third one. So maybe it was building materials. So you can come up with a social enterprise, again, by leveraging the types of strategies that nature uses to accomplish goals. Okay, so that was just a little taste of what we mean by nature's strategies. That's how nature performs functions. And up next, we're going to talk about life's principles, or nature's principles for sustainability.